the day. The auto index was struggling on Friday. It ended with a cut of close to around 1% or thereabouts. But there was one mid-cap, a smaller stock, 1,000 crores odd market capitalization from the broader markets. It's Ricoh Auto that did pretty well. Well, that stock ended higher. It ended at the 52-week high, in fact. And if you look at it from the March lows, well, the stock is up close to around 140%. But this up move that we saw in Friday, well, it was backed by solid volumes. Both on the traded quantity, well, it was much higher than what we have seen in the 10-day average. Even delivery volumes were much higher. So good up move backed by good traded volumes as well as delivery. Well, I was looking at their financials as well, and they've been stuck in that vicinity of around 9% on the margins. I think one bet is that can the margins improve from here? The sales as it is have been improving on a quarterly basis. So can the margins break into double digits? For the time being, well, the stock moved with good momentum. So it made to the momentum list. Sonia.
Okay, momentumizer list. Let's do one thing. Let's move on and talk about some of these new age companies like Paytm, PB Fintech, Zomato. They've been on our radar after their lock-in period ended. Now, these stocks have seen heavy block deals, lots of hands changing, and a lot of these stocks have slipped as much as 20% in this period. Digant Haria, the co-founder of GreenEdge Wealth, who tracks this space very closely, joins in now to talk about that. Digant, good morning. I want to start with Paytm because at the analyst meet, the company was very confident about a very strong growth, achieving their EBITDA break-even target by September of 2023. So at this point, does the risk-reward look favorable for long-term investors?
Morning, Sonia. Thanks for having me here. See, these stocks have fallen around 70-75% from the lows. But, that does not necessarily make them cheap. The Paytm is still at, 35,000 crores market cap. And if you look at, they have two main businesses. One is the payments business. The other is the buy now, pay later, or the lending business, where they originate loans. See, payments business, they have been trying very hard to monetize it. But they have to acknowledge the fact somewhere that, payments is something we all take for granted and we don't want to pay so much money. Globally, in the US or everywhere, people pay a lot for payments, but in India, we don't. We won't ever pay for a savings account or for, writing checks or anything. So we won't even pay for payments. So I think for Paytm, it's a very long journey even today. Whatever the analyst meet says, it looked like that in 2027, they would do 1,200 crores of profit. We are already at 35,000 crores market cap. So, we are still at 35 times. If these earnings come true, we are still at 35 times on FY27. We have monstrously profitable companies, like Bajaj Finance Trade, that's like 36, 37 times earnings. And, we have to buy Paytm to 27 times earnings. That to 4 years down the line, whether these things come true or not, it's not very clear today. So in my view, whatever confidence came out of the analyst meet, I think it's more of the same in the past. If you talk good things, but you don't disclose enough, and the numbers also, don't inspire too much confidence. So yeah, I think we retain negative view that we had during the IPO and all through these last 1 year.
Digant, hi, good morning. And the biggest difference, you talked about savings bank account, etc. There's no UPI, right? Maybe there is some version of UPI elsewhere in the world, but at least here we have UPI. And the face of fintech before UPI and after UPI in India is completely different. There was paths to profitability, etc. But I think that one thing kind of really completely changed things around. I put out valuation comparisons, Digant. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them, or maybe, I don't know if you came across it. Compared to global peers, where are all these companies trading? We'll have these graphics up once again. So I looked at EV by sales 1 year forward, and specifically for names like Delivery and PB Fintech, valuations are now close to, for example, Delivery, I looked at two Chinese companies, two US companies, and in the case of PB Fintech, there's a company called Goosehead Insurance, which trades at about 6 times EV by sales, and Policy Bazaar is around there as well. Any thoughts on these names? And this comparison, is that one way to look at things? Digant, go on.
Yeah, Prashant, thanks. You pointed out a very right thing that, in India we have UPI. So see, the Indian government and regulators have kept all the basic services really, really low cost. Like, having a demat account is absolutely low cost. Traveling in public transport is low cost. Similarly, payments, we have UPI, which is owned by the government. So nobody can exploit this system to the extent that, a Visa or a MasterCard did around the world, and especially in the developed countries. So I don't think that it's right to compare India and global companies, because see, global companies, they make profits in the payments business itself. Paytm has to run the payments business and spend thousands of crores every year just to ensure that people are there on the platform. It has been trying since very long to cross sell a lot of things to these crores of people on the platform, but they're hardly being able to do any cross sell. They are doing loans now. Loans is the easiest thing to cross sell because people will take money, right? They were talking about wealth tech and insure tech and all. I think nobody is buying wealth products from Paytm. So I think the monetization route for Paytm is still very long. We should not compare it with global peers because the regulatory structures in India are different. The opportunities to monetize in India are much, much lower. So I think it's still a tough job for Paytm, and see, BNPL has started seeing burst all around the globe. When you lend to people whom banks are not willing to lend, you are going to see NPA cycles. In India, BNPL has just started. So India's BNPL's NPA cycle will probably happen in the next 2 years or something. So the models are still untested. The only growing piece, the very growing piece of Paytm, it's an untested model. So I don't see why we should compare it with global peers. Global peers themselves have a long way to go down.
Okay, all right. Hi, Digant. Morning. I was listening to your comments about the company being valued at 35 times, even assuming a big profit. And you still believe that, it's not looking interesting. At what multiple do you think it'll look interesting, given that, assuming that they'll do 1,000 crores?
See, Nigel, it's very difficult to put this out because, the first is I would look at NASDAQ bottoming out. I think NASDAQ and these global peers are far away from bottoming out. Second is that, they have to really see a cycle. And then see, these Paytms and all these new age companies have been built on extremely high fixed costs, because they never bothered about costs because money was easy. So Paytm will have probably 4,000 crores of fixed cost. So I'll wait for those profits to come. There's absolute cost to buy any of these
Sure.
companies at the
Digant?
current valuations. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yes,
I'm so sorry. Actually, we are running out of time. I wanted to quickly squeeze in PB Fintech as well, because it is, a big beneficiary of this whole online insurance distribution space. How does it look at this price?
Yeah, so PB Fintech is a great business model. They have got the business model really right. So, it's the stock where we would be the most optimistic, or we would try and look at it. At some point, we would like to buy it. Maybe 350 or 300 is the levels where we see that there is no further downside. This is a company which can break into profitability the fastest. I think this company can also look at, say, 800 to 1,000 crores of profit by 27.
Got it.
And then the company trades at like 20 times. So this is a more reasonable bet to keep an eye on.
All right, no to Paytm, maybe yes to PB Fintech, but lower, right? Around 300 or so.